Hey y'all, it's Nancy, the Handy Scandy. Welcome back for another crafty venture. Today I'm sharing a video where I will be using two very simple but very striking ink blending techniques to create these two mini slimline cards. Now, I shared this video over on the Whimsy Stamps channel earlier today and just thought I would go ahead and share it here as well in case some of you aren't hopping over to Whimsy on my day, which is usually Mondays. But yeah, I just thought I would share it here as well. So I'm starting out by doing a little bit of partial embossing. I have this Thatched embossing folder. It's a Slimline, as you can see, and pretty much everything I'm using today is from Whimsy. And I'm going to use the top of that panel to create my scene, but I really wanted that thatched embossing pattern down on the bottom. So for the second card, I am spraying my Delusions ink spray in milk chocolate directly onto this thatched embossing folder again, and I am going to run it through my die cut machine, and we're going to kind of force some of the ink into that cardstock. Now this is a brown kind of glossy cardstock just from my stash. I think it was from Michael's. This might be the only thing that's not from Whimsy. But you can see I had a little bit too much pressure. So I actually have to get out my reverse tweezers so that I can peel this up out of the grooves on this embossing folder. I love all the pattern, all the depth, the texture. I mean, it's just amazing. It looks like a real thatched panel. I mean, because the chocolate from the spray and then the brown of the cardstock itself, and then where the paper kind of cracked because there was too much pressure, it just looks really, really good. So that's the second panel. Now I'm coming back to the first panel again. You can see that I am just using a little bit of masking tape to mask off that thatched area, and I'm going to do just some down and dirty ink blending above the masking tape. So I've got Weathered Wood, Speckled Egg, and Stormy Sky, and I'm not laying them down in any specific order. I just kind of went with whatever grabbed me in that moment. Now this is down and dirty, but I'm also paying a little bit more attention on both of these cards to make sure that my ink blending isn't quite as rough as some of the other cards that I've made and you guys have seen in my videos. I don't tend to worry about splotches and, you know, lines and things like that because the background just becomes the background, but a lot of both of these backgrounds really show, so I'm a little more careful this time. This brings us to our very first ink blending technique, and I call it the baby wipe ink lift. I'm sure it has its own name. That's what I'm calling it here today. I have the Sunrays stencil from Whimsy, and I'm just taking this wet baby wipe and I'm running it in with the direction of the stencil, and it's just lifting up some of that ink through the stencil. So instead of, like, normally we would put a paste or an ink or whatever through the stencil, but this is lifting that ink up. So you'll see here in just a little bit when I lift this stencil up, you're going to see where it actually pulled some of that ink up. So it's a really neat effect. So here we go. It's super subtle, but I like it. Again, I think it's really striking. It's different, and especially for me, it's very, very clean and simple. So I peeled up that masking tape. You could see that it pulled some of the paper up, but that's okay. So here is pretty much how I'm building my cards right now. I'm working on them both at the same time. I have to set the blue and white one aside to dry, and I really just wanted to show you guys how I kind of modify this umbrella scene, if you will, because I think it's supposed to be on a beach. I think those details at the bottom are supposed to be sand, and I think that's how I've seen everybody else use it. But for me, when I go to the beach, there's a specific place that we go to in Myrtle Beach, and they have like this grassy area, and it's so nice because the grass is nice and cool and it's refreshing, and there are umbrellas and trees that I can sit up under. And so I just wanted to take my Everblends and just flick little grasses on there, and I blended them out, and I just think it changed the scene altogether. Now you can see that I've fussy cut, and something that I did not notice until I was pretty much done and doing a voiceover was that I'd see how I'm doing the little notches there for the grass. I did that across the whole top of the panel for the grass, even in between the surfboard and the tree. But on the top where the umbrella is, I only did it on the right side. I completely forgot the left side. So it is what it is. It is what it is. So anyway, I just used my scissors to make little notches, and I poked them in to get in between the two pieces there of the umbrella pole and the surfboard. So again, you just saw on the screen, this takes us to our second technique, and I'm calling it fade out blending. Essentially, it's just using one color to gradiate from dark up to white, really. So again, kind of down and dirty, but being a little more careful, and it takes a minute to do these. That's why I have it sped up so much, but I really thought you might like to see the progression of the ink going down. Now, again, it's down and dirty, but I am trying to be more careful and more cognizant of getting it even, but I also didn't worry too much about the splotches for a couple reasons. The ink fades and levels and softens as it dries, so sometimes those blemishes, if you will, kind of resolve just as the ink dries. But the second reason is because I know that this umbrella image is going to cover up any remaining blemishes. And so you can see, I mean, the blemishes are kind of striking. You can see where it's really blotchy, but here in just a minute it does not matter. So I have used the this mini Slimline notched and notched stitched dies to cut out these panels, and I really thought it was kind of fun to just have a tiny little seam down the middle. And so I mounted that up on some foam tape on the thatched panel, and then I also have my umbrella scene mounted up on some foam tape as well. And you can see that I use that same die to cut out the umbrella scene so that the bottom of it just fits perfectly down there in those notches. And then on the back of the thatched panel, I actually have some double-sided tape, but it wasn't all the way to the edges, and I wanted to make sure that my edges didn't come up or peel up or curl, so that's why you saw me putting the wet glue and kind of spreading it with my fingers. So I pushed it down from the outside, and then I opened it up, and I'm using a clean towel to kind of press down on the inside to make sure that whole panel is adhered to the card base. And I mean, when you look at that, you really don't see the blotches. At least I don't. Do y'all? I don't know. I think it's, again, very striking. I don't know what other words to use. It's just, it's very clean and simple, and I think it's gorgeous. And you guys know I'm a grungy girl, so the clean and simple is, I don't want to say it's hard for me, but it's definitely outside of my box, outside of my comfort zone. So here I have mounted the blue and white panel onto its card base as well. Now I glued it directly down, and here I'm mounting up this fun little beach hut, and I've colored it in like some sun faded colors, like it was yellow and pink, but the sun has kind of faded out that paint, if you will. And you can see that I have the thank you. That's a new word die from Whimsy, and I actually embossed that cardstock as well before I cut the words out. So it's kind of the color on color, tone on tone, and then the pattern on pattern as well. So I thought that was kind of cute. And here I have these sweet little clouds. They are from the Beach Frogs. I just used the dies, not the stamp set. So I just thought they were really cute. And now these blingy bling of the This Calls for Confetti. These are Opal, and I think they just add that little bit of extra that it was needing. And on this card, again, I had to add some blingy bling, and I like to tuck. Like, I like to tuck them up under the edges of the panels or up under the edge of the image. I just like to tuck. And sometimes I will cut one in half. If I can't get it tucked, I'll just cut it in half and it gets the same look. But these particular confetti are the Inca Gold from This Calls for Confetti. So I just think that they're really sweet, they're really cute. I had a good time making these, and I just want to check in with you guys. So what do you think? Do you like clean and simple ink blending like this? Are these techniques that you've used before? If you have, what are they called? Because I'm just making it up as I go. So let me know your thoughts downstairs, guys. This is Nancy, the Handy Scandy. I appreciate you spending some time with me. If you want to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you're not already a member of my crafty tribe. And if you are a member, welcome back. I'm so glad to have you, and I'll meet you guys downstairs in the comments. And until next time, this is Nancy, the Handy Scandy. Mwah! I'm out.